Right friends, welcome back to S&T Health and Environment 15th week, and we are going to deliberate two issues. In dollar terms, the growth of major IT companies in 2015-16 was at around 3 to 9%. Normally, the growth in IT companies in double digits is the norm, but for the year 2015-16, major IT companies have grown by just 3 to 9%, and we are going to deliberate what is the further course of action to be followed by Indian IT companies so as to stay in the mainstream of IT sector. Second is, in the world, 422 million adults have diabetes. Alarming thing is the incidence of diabetes increased from around 5% to around 8% during the past 34-35 years. Right? The problem is more in developing countries. So look at the first one. In dollar terms, the growth of major IT companies in 2015-16 was at around 3 to 9%. This is in contrast to the double-digit growth experienced during the past several years. Normally, in IT sector, double-digit growth is the norm, but during 2015-16, the growth was around 3% to 9%. And important Indian-based IT companies include Tata, Infosys, Wipro, and I have given the list here. Top 20 India-based IT companies: Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, like that, and international players which have their headquarters abroad include Accenture, Cognizant, HP, Capgemini, IBM. And if you look at the India-centric operations of these companies, then this list of 20 will change, but I have given the list which are India-based IT companies, please remember, and international players with their headquarters abroad include Accenture, Cognizant, HP, Capgemini, IBM, which have got substantial portion of their operations in our country. And if you look at the factual information, major markets for Indian software exports are basically North America and Europe, and all of you are well aware in mercantile exports, that is the exports of mercantile goods, or you can say physical goods, we have trade deficit of around $120 billion, but in software exports we have surplus. That is the biggest advantage for our country when you look at current account deficit. And another important point is the growth in several of advanced countries is not up to the mark. Even the United States of America is not expected to increase IT spending. And one more important aspect is the NASSCOM, the trade body representing IT and BPO sector, that is NASSCOM, already announced that there is going to be 20% drop in hiring during the year 2016-17, and as I have already told you, if the software exports fall, then it will have implications on current account deficit. And please don't forget, Indian IT sector employs around 3 million directly. Right friends, and what are the challenges being faced by Indian IT sector? First and the foremost is, I have listed 3 challenges. First and the foremost is, Indian software companies are traditionally strong in application development and maintenance. Most of Indian IT workforce is engaged or trained in this domain, that is, they are strong in application development and maintenance, but nowadays most of these repetitive functions are being automated. Hence, the workforce is either to be retrenched or to be retrained in other domains. So, the option left for software companies is either to retrain the software employees or to retrench the software employees. And is the software sector ready for this? That is the million-dollar question. The second important challenge faced by Indian IT sector is, at present, BFSI. You may ask, what is BFSI? BFSI is banking, financial services and insurance, as well as telecom sector. These two put together, revenues constitute around 40 to 50% of the overall revenues of IT sector. If you look at the overall revenue of IT sector, the predominant portion of revenues, that is from around 40 to 50%, constituted by BFSI and telecom sector, and we are strong in these sectors. But shift is taking place towards other verticals like retail, healthcare, and Indian players lack a strong presence in these sectors. In these sectors, our presence is not substantial, and we also do not have much domain knowledge, and Indian software companies have to diversify with acquisition of firms having knowledge in these domains. So, the need of the hour is Indian software companies have to diversify into new domains with acquisitions. And can the Indian software sector ready for this? This is another challenge. And the conventional sectors, as I have already told you, they constitute BFSI and telecom, and we are strong in it. And if you look at the retail and healthcare sectors, foreign players are dominating these sectors at present. And third most important aspect is digital technology solutions are much in demand across all the verticals. Nowadays, this is the era of digital technology solutions. Here also, the multinational companies with the higher order consulting capabilities are at the forefront, but not the Indian companies. So, the need of the hour is Indian players have to reskill their workforce with the higher capabilities, right? So, Indian software sector has to reskill in a big way, and if you sum up, the final comment is conventional models will not work. Go aggressively for reskilling the workforce, cut back on workforce if required, but that should be a last resort only. Acquire domain skills in sunrise sectors like retail, healthcare, and future is digital technology solutions. Please look at this domain and go for massive acquisitions of firms with expertise in domains like retail, healthcare, and don't pile up the cash idle, and try to get domain knowledge with acquisitions wherever required. Let us hope for the best for the Indian IT sector. Let us move on to the second issue, alarming, especially in developing countries like India, that is diabetes. World Health Organization, all of you are well aware, celebrates World Health Day on 7th April. You may ask, what is the significance of 7th April? On 7th April in 1948, World Health Organization was established, and the headquarters of World Health Organization is Geneva, Switzerland. And this year, the focus of World Health Organization is diabetes. Beat diabetes. That is the main slogan of this World Health Organization for World Health Day on April 7 this year, and we are going to deliberate on what is diabetes and why it is so alarming. And one sentence I would like to put it, that is because of sedentary lifestyle of people from developing countries. This is increasing in recent times, right? In 2014, I have given factual information here. In 2014, 1 in 3 adults aged over 18 years, this I am talking about the world as a whole. So, in world as a whole, in 2014, 1 in 3 adults, that means around 33% of adult population over 18 years are overweight, and around 10% of adult population are obese. You may ask, what is overweight and what is obese? When the body mass index is more than 25 and up to 30, that is overweight. And when the body mass index is more than 30, that is obese. You may ask, what is body mass index? Body mass index is nothing but, in the numerator, you have to put the weight of the person in kilograms, and in the denominator, you have to put the height of the person in meters, and you have to square the denominator, then you will get body mass index. And body mass index is expected to be up to 25. If more than 25, it is overweight, and if it is more than 30, it is obese. And diabetes caused 1.5 million deaths in 2012 across the world. Then in India, at present, 69 million, or you can say 9% of adults are living with diabetes, and substantial percentage are living with the pre-diabetes stage in our country. So, at present, the diabetes population, if you look at the adults, it is around 9% in our country, and it increased from around 4% 35 years ago. Around 35 years ago, the diabetes population was around 4% in our country. Now it increased to around 9%. In absolute terms, in the year 1980, there were around 12 million diabetes population, and in 2014, it increased to 65 million, and at present it is expected to be 69 million. And if you look at further factual information, direct annual cost of diabetes is $73 billion, most of which is through out-of-pocket expenditure. And out-of-pocket expenditure means no insurance facility. Unfortunately, in our country, we do not have much health insurance, and 80 to 85% of the expenditure is out of pocket in our country. That is the biggest problem common man is facing in our country. And if you look at India, the number of obese men, obesity in our country is not that much in comparison to developed countries, but still obesity in our country increased from 0.4 million in 1975 to around 10 million in 2014. And this is statistics for men. But if you look at the statistics for women, it increased from 0.8 million to 20 million. So, in women in our country, 20 million, that means 2 crore women are obese and 1 crore men are obese. And in India, sedentary lifestyle is primarily responsible nowadays for abnormal increase, because most of our jobs are sitting at the table and not much physical activity, and that is the main reason why diabetes is increasing. And United Nations goal is to bring the disease affected people to 2010 levels by 2025, and it appears to be the Herculean task for India. And overall public awareness is required for onset or postponing the disease. And what is diabetes mellitus? Before going into it, pancreas, that is one of the glands of the endocrine system, and there are several systems in the body like nervous system, circulatory system, endocrine system. So, endocrine system is important. If you look at the hormonal secretion, please look into this. These are endocrine glands. Endocrine glands I have listed here: pancreas, adrenal glands, the pituitary gland, hypothalamus. These are all examples of endocrine glands. They release hormones into the bloodstream, and one such endocrine gland is pancreas, and insulin is produced in beta cells in the islets of Langerhans in pancreas. So, in pancreas, insulin is produced. And why insulin is required in the body? You have to go back to the daily activity, whatever you are doing. You eat either roti or rice, and subsequently when it reaches intestine, it is converted into glucose, and this glucose is to be absorbed by the cells of the human body, because cells have to release energy for day-to-day activities. Let me tell you once again, the glucose in the body is to be absorbed by the cells of the body because energy is required. When cells absorb glucose, then energy is released by the cells for our day-to-day activities. Otherwise, we cannot walk, otherwise we cannot study, otherwise we cannot do our regular works. That means glucose is to be converted into energy, and cells will do that. And for glucose to be absorbed by the cells, the hormone required is insulin. And if insulin is not there, this glucose cannot be absorbed by the cells, and person will become weak. And if glucose is not absorbed by cells of the body, then glucose levels in the body will increase. Normal blood glucose levels in the body are less than 110 milligrams per deciliter in fasting condition. That means before eating anything, if you go and test blood glucose levels, they should be less than 110 milligrams per deciliter. And after eating something, and if you go 2 hours after eating something, which is known as postprandial, and at that juncture the blood glucose levels should be less than 140 milligrams per deciliter, right? So, the glucose levels should be less than 110 in fasting, and postprandial they should be less than 140. This situation will be there when the glucose is absorbed by the cells. But If glucose is not absorbed by the cells of the body, then glucose levels will increase. In fasting, it may go up to 200, 300. So, increase in glucose levels due to lack of insulin hormone or due to insulin resistance is known as diabetes. Right? I have given in this PPT, you can go through it, and there are two types of diabetes. One is type 1, second one is type 2. Type 1 is normally associated with the destruction of beta cells in pancreas. Because of some infections or whatever the reasons, these beta cells which produce insulin are totally destructed during childhood, and that is known as type 1 diabetes. It is total absolute destruction of insulin secretion, and it occurs in children. That's why it is called juvenile onset diabetes, and it constitutes 5 to 10% of total cases of diabetes. And insulin is directly required to treat this disease, and most of the adult population are affected with the type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is due to either insulin resistance by the cells of the body or due to insufficient insulin produced by the beta cells in the islets of Langerhans in pancreas. And in some cases, insulin resistance in cells occurs because of obesity, and normally it is a non-insulin dependent, and it is also known as adult onset diabetes, and it constitutes around 90 to 95% of total cases of diabetes. And medication, taking medicines or exercise is required, and in some cases physical exercise and peaceful mind will solve the problem to some extent. So, these are the two types of diabetes, and you may ask, what are the symptoms of diabetes? How people will come to know that there is a diabetes in the human being? First thing is polyuria, that means frequent urination. The frequency of urination will increase. Second one is some cases weight loss will occur. Third one is polydipsia, that means more thirst, and frequently people will take water more than required, that means people will feel thirsty. And sometimes polyphagia, that means excessive eating or appetite, and blurred vision. Then susceptibility for infections. Infections may occur in any part of the body when blood glucose levels increase. So, these are the symptoms, and you may ask, if blood glucose levels increase, what are the long-term complications? If blood glucose levels are not in control and if it increases beyond limit, then the long-term complications are retinopathy. Retinopathy is the disease which may lead to loss of vision. Then second one is nephropathy. Nephropathy may lead to renal failure, that means a failure of the kidneys. Then peripheral neuropathy, that means foot ulcers may occur, and in some extreme cases, leg may be required to be removed altogether. Then cardiovascular diseases, diseases pertaining to heart, then lipoprotein abnormalities. These are the long-term complications of diabetes. That means if diabetes persists for more than 10-15 years, then these are the long-term complications which are likely to occur. So, one should be cautious about diabetes mellitus. As I have already told you, if it is a type 1 diabetes, insulin is required to be taken. And if it is a type 2 diabetes, it can be controlled either with the medicines or with the lifestyle modifications. And you may ask, how to prevent or postpone type 2 diabetes, or how to keep it under control? These are the important aspects one has to follow. First thing is, more than 90% are lifestyle induced and can be prevented with lifestyle modifications. Second important point is, do brisk walking for at least 30 minutes a day. You may be too busy, I cannot deny that, but please take time at least 30 minutes to do brisk walking every day. Third one is reduce fat consumption and have healthy diet with the fruits and vegetables. Then avoid junk food. Junk food is quite common nowadays. Please avoid that. Then finally, ensure stress-free life and stress is mainly responsible for several diseases like diabetes, then blood pressure and heart attacks. So, ensure stress-free life, and let us hope Indians to come out of stress to some extent so as to save them from the onset of diabetes. Right friends, have a nice day. Please do join for lecture part. Thank you.